Good evening. I'll call the meeting to order at this time. If you will, please rise for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I'll call on Dr. David Barber to lead us in the invocation, please.
Let's pray. Lord, I thank you so much for this opportunity we have that we can come to this town hall and we can meet with our citizens and we can talk about the business of the town. I thank you, Lord, for all those who show interest and are involved. I pray, Lord, for all the town people who work diligently every day to help make this town the great town that it is. I pray now, Lord, that as you help us in this meeting to be able to do the business that you want us to do, that we can make our town even better. For it's in the mighty name of Jesus we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Go ahead and get started. I know I've heard from Councilman Dunn. He is under the weather and will not be here this evening. I have not heard from Councilman Lee. Mr. Manager, have you?
I have no information on that.
Ms. Clerk, have you heard from Councilman Lee or anybody heard? Okay. All right, we do have a quorum, so we can proceed with the meeting. Gentlemen, you do have the agenda in front of you. I do not believe we have any changes. Unless there's any changes on your behalf, I'll accept a recommendation for approval or for if you need to make any changes. So.
I make a motion we approve the agenda as is.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we'll move on to our first presentation, and is the introduction of Ms. Smithfield's teen, Chloe Joyner. So, Chloe, welcome. And if you want to come to the front here to the podium, and you have a presentation you would like to give us, so welcome. And the floor
How are
is
y'all
yours.
doing tonight?
Wonderful.
Wonderful. I'm Chloe. I am Miss Smithfield's teen 2024. So I just wanted to start off by saying thank y'all for allowing me to come talk to y'all tonight. I'm very excited to start getting into Smithfield and getting into the community. It's truly an important part of my journey this year. A little bit about me. I'm 17 years old. I'm a junior at Princeton High School. I've lived in Princeton my whole life, so I'm very familiar with Smithfield and the community around here. I'm also a dual enrolled student into JCC, so I have a very busy schedule, but I'm very excited to start incorporating stuff into my schedule to get in more into Smithfield this year. Also, I've done pageants my whole life, basically, so this is very surreal for me to be able to represent Smithfield. But along that topic, I have a CSI. It's called Tabs for Time. So I'm going to go ahead and tell y'all a little bit about that. But first, have any of you ever stayed in the Ronald McDonald House, or do you know anyone that has stayed in the Ronald McDonald House? You do? Okay, so great. I get to teach most of you something tonight. So the Ronald McDonald House is a home for families of sick children to stay when the children are sick and in the hospital. It's very close to the hospital, so they can get transportation to and from. What I do for Ronald McDonald House is I collect tabs, like the soda can drink tabs, canned food tabs, and through my journey, which is over 10 years, I have collected over 2 million tabs for the Ronald McDonald House, which has secured 168 nights for these families to stay. My goal this year is to maybe double this number, but I need your help with this. One of my goals this year is to have places all around Smithfield where families can go and drop off tabs, and I can go around once a month and pick them up and take them to the Ronald McDonald House. I challenge you guys to start saving, so when you start saving, you can come drop them off as well. I really want to get, one thing I'm trying to do is to establish a rock-a-thon at the Ham and Yam Festival this year. A rock-a-thon is where I can invite girls from all over North Carolina to Smithfield to sit and rock, because the Ronald McDonald House also accepts monetary donations. I've held a rock-a-thon before where I've collected about $2,000. My goal this time is $5,000. And I believe the Ham and Yam Festival would be a perfect opportunity for me to really get involved in Smithfield. But I do need a little bit of help with that, so if you have any suggestions for me, that would be wonderful. Incorporating Taps for Time into Smithfield, the Rockathon would be perfect for that. I can tell people about my journey, they can donate, and they can start these little habits just like I have. I've carried it with me since I was 5 years old, and look where it's led me, 2 million tabs. These tabs seem probably very insignificant. You throw them in the trash every day, right? Probably. But it can truly make a big difference in these families' lives because the Ronald McDonald House is free. However, it's a home and it needs a lot of cost. It carries about 100 families, each Ronald McDonald House. So it takes a lot to keep those homes up and running. I'm sure you know you have a home yourself. So if y'all have any suggestions, anything you say I could add to this Taps for Time, I really want to grow it this year. It's a big part. It's very special to my heart. So if you have any suggestions at the end, I'm going to put my number and my email on the screen, so y'all have my contact, and any ideas you have, you can send my way. So my goals this year, as I said before, I really want to get into Smithfield. I've lived here my whole life, and I really want to make myself known. And at the end of the year, I want people to look back on my year of service and say, wow, she truly made a difference, and she got the community together, and she started people collecting these tabs and having a drop-off spot. And also, I didn't mention, the only place to drop these tabs off is at the Ronald McDonald House in Chapel Hill, and that's why I want to get a place here started to where it's a centralized location. Everyone knows where it is, and it's an easy place for them to go drop it off. So what's next for me? In June, I will be competing for the title of Miss North Carolina's Teen. When I was little, I was a Carolina princess, and I always looked up to the big girls, and here I am now. I'm a big girl. So it's truly a dream come true. And I'm so excited to be able to carry Smithfield and the community with me, to have my back on the big stage in June. It's truly a wonderful opportunity to be able to represent Smithfield, and I really hope to make y'all proud. So if y'all have any questions for me, I would love to answer them. Also, I'm going to go back. Technology. Just to the first slide.
Okay.
So that's my email and my phone number. If y'all ever have any events or places y'all want me to be, I would love to be there. Like I said, I live in Princeton. I'm not far at all, and I can make my schedule open for anything y'all need me to be at.
Okay, nice job. Any questions? I hate to put him on the spot, but Mr. Mayor Pro Tem here is Mr. Koch, so
Yeah.
maybe he may have some ideas for you as far as helping out there, or maybe some ideas at least anyway, and
Yeah.
then
And I think we need to get the community involved. I can definitely see what we were doing at Coke, for sure. And talk to some of my customers as well about that. But I think we need to look at local businesses. I think Councilman Barber's on the Downtown Development Board, is that correct?
So is Mr. Scott over there.
Mr. Scott, maybe you can bring that up. Well, I'm sure most folks that sell beverages will be glad to donate the tabs to you as well.
And I am working on collection boxes right now, taking little ones to small local businesses for people to just take off the tab and throw it in there, that I can go around and collect those as well.
So, but we'll be glad to make a few phone calls, and I'll check at Coke again, but congratulations
Thank
on your
you.
win. Good luck in June. I know your friend just won Miss America team, is that
Yes,
correct?
Hanley. And Miss Cora was also her wonderful director, so I am in good hands
That
this
was,
year.
that was a big, huge event or big win for this county.
She's the first girl in North Carolina to ever win Miss America's team. And we've had several first runner-ups, and she had never done a pageant before she did Cleveland. Actually, she did the Cleveland High School pageant and didn't even place.
Right.
And then she went to the Miss Johnston County pageant, and she won Miss Cleveland's teen. Then she went to Miss North Carolina, won Miss North Carolina's teen. Then went to Miss America and won Miss America's teen.
Yeah.
So she's truly an inspiration for girls of all ages, me included.
Well, that's good. Well, we'll be glad to make some phone calls, and if Councilman Barber and Mr. Scott can make some contacts with downtown development, they can help you out.
Yep.
Now, if we need, we just contact you for dump bins or whatnot for you, or we contact you for the dump bins you need in the stores or local businesses that we can assist
Yes,
you
sir.
with? Okay,
Yes, sir.
all right.
And once you get more, your plan together or whatever, just contact us or whatever, and
Sure.
I'm sure we'd be glad to
Yeah,
do
she's got
something
shares.
here, right, at Town Hall, and again, thanks.
Operation center, place like that would need one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So good luck with everything. Another fun fact, Mayor Pro Tem and myself both graduated high school with your mother, so.
Sure did.
Oh, and also I work at Cracker Barrel, so if y'all ever go out for lunch or anything, you can ask to sit with me. I see Mr. Roger all the time.
All right,
Thank y'all for your time.
nice
Thank you.
job.
Good job.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on now to our 2022-2023 audit presentation. Greg?
Councilman. So that's a tough act to follow. But believe it or not, we have a very smart and attractive audit to cover with you today.
Awesome.
We have from Thompson, Price, Scott, Adams and Company, Stuart Hill, who will present our audit findings. And without any further ado, I'll let him speak.
Right. I appreciate being here tonight and y'all having me here. So we do appreciate the opportunity to do your June 30th, 2023 audit. I'll tell you that you got a really good audit, no findings whatsoever. So we got the full audit report, and we got the presentation summary. This would take 3 months to go through tonight. This will take about 5 to 10 minutes. So you don't
Let's
have
go
to
with the
make-
summary. How about that? Greg, can you just make sure the mic is on at this podium? Just, it sounds, should be a light probably.
Yeah, there's a
Green
note
light?
on it, tells you what it's supposed to look like.
Just want to make sure.
Just pull your mic down a little bit, may help. There we go. Perfect. Thank you.
Just want to make sure, because we are recording. I don't know if it's working. It may not be working, but that's okay. Yep.
All right. So in the presentation summary, we're going to go to page, right after the table of contents, page number 1. And that's a letter, or a letter of discipline to tell you anything that was bad, and some good things as well. We won't read this, everybody will read that, but there's nothing bad in that letter. Let me say this. If you have any questions along the way, stop me if you want to. If I don't know the answer, I'll tell you, but we'll get you one. And even if after the night, if you have questions, he knows how to get up with us, and we'll get you an answer for whatever comes back. So that's 3 pages of that letter. And then you take at page 4 on the presentation summary. Okay. There's a lot of data, a 5-year trend. We're not going to read all those either, but those are the backbone of the charts that we're going to look at. And that's on page, the first chart is on page 6. First chart on page 6 is an analysis of your fund balance. And that's a five-year trend from 2019 to 2023. And your fund balance for the total fund balance for the general fund is $19,195,668. That's the total fund balance. The restricted and assigned fund balance is in the red is the $5,246,357. The chart on the bottom of page 6 is an analysis of your fund balance available. Fund balance available is your total fund balance less the restriction for state statutes. And that is a percentage of the general fund expenditures, and you can see you got a great fund balance available. The percentage is over the amount of the general fund expenditures. That's huge. On page 3, at the top, we're looking at an analysis of unassigned fund balance as a percentage of the general fund expenditures. It's similar to that prior chart, only it's the total fund balance less restrictions for state statutes and anything y'all have committed or assigned. In your
We're on page 7 now, is that it?
yes. That's at the top. So you can see that's 97% on the 2023. The chart at the bottom is an analysis of revenues over or under expenditures before transfers and contributions. You can see those trends is creeping up easier. I mean, a little bit all the way around. On page 8, we have a chart with your cash balances and your fund balances. Your cash balances are what's in the bank, basically, and your fund balances are basically the difference between your assets and liabilities. And you can see that by the funds, and the numbers are all there, and you can see those and read those too. I'll read them if you want me to, but we can, if you, it would, I mean, if you want me to read them out, I will, but not, I'll go on, because you can look at it. On page 9, we got your property tax rates. It's been consistent for the whole 5 years and probably been before. It's your 57 cent per 100. It's not changed. These things that's in the red that doesn't go all the way, that's information that the state used to give us, but they're not giving us that anymore, so that's why that doesn't go all the way. And your collection percentage is awesome. I mean, you got 99.93% of your taxes collected. That's great, really great. On page 10, we have a breakdown of your general fund revenues by categories. You can see here that the ad valorem taxes is the largest category of your revenues, followed by intergovernmental revenues, and then sales and services third, and then the smaller ones are, you can see there. The chart on the bottom is a breakdown of the general fund expenditures, and the categories of that. The public safety is the largest, followed by the cultural and recreational, and then the general governmental is third, and then there are other small ones you can see there too. And if we had another page, it would be the stuff that we were telling you that you didn't, that was the findings. And so there is no other page because there is no findings. And with that, entertain questions.
Mr. Hill, is that right?
Hill.
Any questions for Mr. Hill?
I had a question. So my question is, so since they don't, I understand on the, like on chart number 9, on page 9, we had you said they no longer gives you the weighted average anymore. Do you have any idea what it is though? I mean, since they don't give you that information, but do you have an idea of how we're compared to others? Because that's what that is. That's a comparison, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I can tell you, you're trending in the better, yours is better. I mean, we got some more similar to yours, but you're in the better of the groups, you know, and if I can maybe get those percentages, if I can go research it, you know.
So the question is, example, where it had the property tax rates was, as of 2021, the average was 0.489, and ours is 57. Ours still says 57 throughout. What has happened over the last 2 years as far as that average is concerned? Has that average come where we're more in line, or we're still above the average? You see my point? That's what I was kind of curious about. Because we're in tax time, so we're not tax. We're in budgeting time, so we're looking at all those things. So
Sure,
how do we
sure.
compare, you know, where we are compared to others?
Right. Well, we can, I'll see if I can find something and give it to Greg, if that's okay with you, and
So I think that's important for us to know. I mean, you know, how we compare to others when you're
okay.
talking, because we all, in a way, we all compete.
Yeah.
You know, our taxes are part of what people come to our town. Either we're too high or too low, whatever. I mean,
Right.
it makes a difference too. So we kind of,
Gotcha.
I can tell you, Councilman, that our property tax rate is lower than Clayton's, lower than Benson's, and lower than Selma's, I believe.
now I'm anticipating that our numbers would be below what other people's are. So I'm thinking, because I know over the years, some of them have had some financial issues and had to raise their taxes considerably just to pay their bills. And, you know, we have not been, we've not had to do that. And as a matter of fact, if you look at ours, we've done very well, managing, being good stewards. I think this thing shows we've done good stewards. The town has done a great job being good stewards of our taxpayers' money.
Sure.
Compared to some of our, you know, this class group.
Yep.
And I think that's why it's unfortunate they're not showing those numbers.
Yeah. I'll try to see, I mean, they usually give us, I mean, they used to give them, you could go online and get it. I may have to call somebody, you know.
Councilman, it probably goes without saying that these weighted averages is for the entire state of North Carolina.
Understand. But there's still, I would anticipate that what we see with our neighbors are doing, I would assume that the same thing is applying across the state. You know, and I think that's interesting to note that, you know, we've been able to maintain where we are and spend the money that we have and done a good job at maintaining our numbers. I think that's important for our citizens to know that, you know, that
Indeed, it is.
decisions that are being made are decisions that are being made to help our town a lot of ways, so.
Any other questions, comments?
Assume y'all do right many municipalities.
Yes, sir.
How many do you see with a fund balance of 108%?
Not many, not many.
I think so. And it goes out to
Yep.
our staff, manager, Greg, and finance, and our whole staff for, like you said, good stewards of the town's money. I mean,
Right.
good job, guys.
Yeah, well, and I also wanted to thank Greg and his staff, and because there's several of them, along with Greg. We couldn't do it without them. They give us the information that we asked for, and if we have questions on it, they are right there to give us an answer. And so we appreciate that.
Any other questions?
So what is since we were talking about fund balance, what is ours outstanding, I know that. The question is, what is a good fund balance? Ours is outstanding. What's a good fund balance? What would that be?
Well, I would say that, you know, you would want a fund balance that was, you know.
I'm not putting you on the spot, but
Yeah.
I'm asking for an opinion now, not facts. I understand that.
Well, I would say that if you got it, we got some that's 30%, 20% and lower.
Right.
And 30 would be pretty good.
30 is good.
Yeah.
Well, you got state laws that say we have to have a minimum, and then
Yeah.
we've got our own policy internally that we've set, and we've achieved that times 3
Policies, what?
right now.
25%. Our internal policy is at least 25%. Yep. And then the local government commission recommends what?
Right, so we get graded two ways.
12%.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You got
Government,
the,
local government recommends 12%?
Minimum,
Minimum, okay,
you may, without getting a letter.
Internal policy is like
yeah.
25.
Still.
all right.
Greg,
And then,
I-
can
Greg,
you, yeah,
Just real quick, I just got this, but I'm sorry, did I interrupt you?
No, no.
Okay. Real quick, I just got this tonight. I was just curious, and obviously we can talk more, but the impact that our renovation on the water plant, did that affect that enterprise fund as far as the overall? I see the on page 7, it looks like there's the debt service is allocated there, and I know that has come, closed. I was just curious how that affected the overall numbers.
in the large picture, I would say, and I'll have Mike comment after me, that we were well prepared for that debt service. We had set funds aside a year or two in advance. And so in the big picture, it did not affect our fund balance very much.
I also want to spend more time and look over this. I appreciate what y'all presented, and it's good to know that we're in a very strong financial position. We've,
so
of
Greg,
hard
Mr.
work.
Hill, can you just touch on the difference between our total fund balance, general fund balance,
Yeah.
the unavailable fund balance?
Restricted.
And then the unassigned fund balance and restricted? Can you touch on the differences? I'm not sure who wants to take that one, but.
Gladly. And I'll allow you to comment as well if I
Okay.
leave something out. So total fund balance is just an accounting of all funds regardless of use in mind. A number of our monies that we have in our account are designated. It could be grant dollars that are designated and thereby restricted. It could be Powell bill monies that are designated and thereby restricted. And so when we say unassigned, it's just that. There is no particular designation. It just goes for everyday operational expenses, et cetera. Is that sufficient?
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's at 97%.
That's at 97.
Yep. Okay. All right. Not seeing any further questions, so outstanding job to Mike and to Greg and to all the department heads and to actually, I mean, it takes all the employees, right?
Takes everyone.
It's not just the department heads, right? It's everybody chipping in. And, it's been tough, with COVID and everything else. These are still, we were unsure what our numbers were going to look like a couple of years ago from the sales tax revenue and other things. And quite frankly, people being able to afford to pay their taxes, right? Because they weren't working. And I think this is just a great testament of, our employees and quite frankly, thanking our citizens for paying their taxes, because that's how we operate, right? So, great job, thank you, and I'm sure if there are any questions, we'll either get with Greg or get with you
Can I ask one more
directly.
question, Mayor?
Sure.
Based on these new numbers, what does 1 cent of tax revenue generate in funds?
Mike, have you looked at that lately?
No, I'm in the process of that now, but the audit numbers don't really change that. That just has to do with our property tax.
Right.
How much money our revenue is.
But
and-
at the end of the year, it seems like to me it would be pretty much a solid assessment, but we can talk about that during budget.
Yeah.
I'm just curious.
I think last year it was somewhere in the neighborhood of 195,000, 1 cent would generate. Does
I
that
was thinking
sound-
180 something.
Yeah. So it hasn't changed significantly.
So I had one additional question then. So the question is, so when you said understand that term, the unassigned money that we can spend at 97%, not that we can spend, but I mean, that we don't really have allocated, there's no strings attached to it, 97%, we could fund whatever we wanted to fund with it. I mean, obviously, we're not gonna throw the money, but I'm saying we don't have some restrictions out there for that. The question is, the grant money that we got for, not grant, but the money that we got for the American Rescue Act, for example, that's not included. That's including that other, not the 97%, correct? Because there is limitations on that money that we have to spend in a certain way. So there is restrictions on that money, or is that included in the 97%?
I believe the 1.3 million would be included that we haven't allocated yet. The rest of it would be already assigned fund balance.
Okay, I guess I misunderstood, so that's clarification then. So let me understand. I thought the question is, if we received grant money and we can only spend it certain ways, if we haven't allocated that money to be spent yet, it still falls in the 97% then, right? The only time that it doesn't fall in the 97% is if we've already allocated it somewhere but haven't spent it. Is that what it is?
Not exactly.
Okay, help me.
Okay, so if we get a grant for stormwater plan like we did from Golden Leaf a couple years ago, that's going to be something that's assigned already from the moment we get it because it has an intended purpose. The American Rescue Plan funds, they came in as revenue replacement. That's what this council voted to use that money and assign it as revenue replacement. Because we were less than $10 million, and that allowed us to have more latitude in how we spent that money. So we have allocated all but $1.3 million of that money. So it's already been assigned someplace, like we have a trash truck, we have a fire engine, we spent some of it on sewer repairs, the rest of that money's already been allocated, but that 1.3 million should still be unassigned because we haven't done anything with it and it didn't have an intended purpose when we received it.
But I guess, so it's unassigned, but there's still restrictions on what we can spend it for.
Well, not much.
Okay. That's what I'm trying to understand. I'm trying to understand the
it's in
different categories of what can be, and so I'm just trying to understand if we have money that, so if there's money that has some type of restrictions on it, that you can't spend it a certain way. That was what I'm saying. Is that money that we can only spend a certain way, would that money be in the unassigned or in the assigned? That's unrestricted, that's what I'm trying to say.
Money that can only be spent a certain way is in unassigned.
Okay, it's in the 97%.
Is in assigned.
It's in the assigned, so it's not in the 97.
Right. The 97
Is restricted.
97 is unrestricted.
Unrestricted.
Yeah. But you understand what I'm saying, Roger?
Yeah, unassigned.
Councilman, when you
The
have a moment,
97% is unassigned, so you can spend that 97% however you want to, as long as it's a general fund expenditure.
Okay,
You wouldn't want to use it for enterprise fund expenditure.
right, understand.
yeah, the assigned categories are on page 15 in the audit report.
Okay,
First column there, bottom half, it tells you what's restricted, and then anything not listed, of course, is unassigned.
good enough. Thank you, sir. That answered me. Gives me where I was at. All right.
All right, thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Yes,
Y'all
sir.
have a great night.
Thank you, Mr. Hill.
Thank
sir.
you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. All right, moving on now to our first public hearing. Says Community Development Block Grant Closeout Public Hearing. The purpose of this hearing is to enable citizens to submit comments on all aspects of the CDBG performance and the performance of the Citizen Participation Plan. That's on page 15, and Mr. Manager, I'll turn it over to you, sir.
Yes, sir. I'll ask Mr. Skip Green, our administrator for the grant, to step up. He has a few comments to make as we start the public hearing.
Okay.
But you want to open it?
And I'll entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
I make a motion, we open the public hearing.
Second.
Motion and a second. You have a second?
Yes, we do.
All right. Who was that? I'm sorry, I didn't hear. Travis. All right. Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay.
All right, thank you. The Community Development Block Grant has several required public hearings, and this is the last one that's required, which is the closeout. I'll just kind of summarize real quickly what was done, and then we'll leave it open for citizens' comment. And then after the public hearing is closed, I'll be glad to entertain any questions that the council may have. The town received a $750,000 community development block grant. Through its use, there were 2 houses that were demolished and cleared. Each of these houses, where this occurred, there was what's called a reconstruction. A new house was built back on its place. So we had 2 houses which were completely rebuilt. Then we had 7 houses that were rehabbed. Of these, 1 was a substantial rehabilitation, and that's based on the cost to rehabilitate the house on a square footage basis. So when the application was originally put in, there actually was about, I think, 21 people said that they wanted to participate in the program. By the time the application was funded, we went through to actually have people fill out questionnaires, applications. When that was done, there only was 12 people. The majority of the people that did not follow through, it had to do with the, as far as where we had heirs, because this was not, it's not a, though it's a grant, it's a you have like up to a 7-year period that you have to reside in the house with the amount being reduced each year. And it requires a lien and promissory note. In particular, when there were heirs, many of the heirs did not want to go along with that. So, like I say, that was what was done. I would say the major from a problem happened was COVID, because when it was first approved, we went almost probably a year before we actually started doing work, because it was right in the middle of COVID. And then when we actually started getting involved with the contractors, there was a constant theme throughout the whole thing as far as with subs, as far as the ability of subs, which made times a lot longer than you normally would think they would be. If it didn't happen with every contractor that we used, I would say it was specific, maybe to 1 or 2 contractors, but it was uniform throughout the project. So I would now, if we would, leave it open to any public comment.
Any questions for Mr. Green or manager?
Yeah, I have a question. So my question is, when your projects are done, do you have any type of a survey, or, with the individual people that did it, on any issues that they might have had, any problems? Is there a mechanism in place to handle, those type of, like, if there's any complaints about certain things that were done that need to be fixed, or?
Yes,
Is
sir. There's, each house, you have to do a closeout as far as a post-construction. At that, it's being walked through with the homeowner and the contractor. And then if there's any problems, then they are resolved. The homeowners have to sign a homeowner satisfaction. So each project that we have, all 8, the homeowners have found that they were satisfied with the work that had been done.
So that's complete? You say everybody signed off saying the work is complete, and they're
Yes, sir.
satisfied?
Yes, sir. That was, as far as any final payment, that would not have been made until that was presented.
Any other questions? And we rebuilt how many houses?
2 houses that were totally rebuilt.
Total rebuilt, and they're,
You had 7. You had 7 that you remodeled, right?
Yes, sir.
So that's 9. You said something, that you had 12 applications.
Let's see, let me see what that is. We had, well, it was 7 rehab and 1 substantial. So in all total, it was 10. It was 7 rehabs, 1 substantial rehab, and then 2 reconstructions.
okay. And then all along, is this administered under what department?
Yeah,
Housing and Urban
the
Development.
state came through, actually, they brought Initially, there were about 3 people, well, not 3 or 4 people came, so we had a full audit by the state.
And that was acceptable, the audit?
We went through, and they were, if they had questions, then we responded to those.
But at the end, obviously, we're closing out the project, so the audit was
Yes, sir.
acceptable to them and so forth. Okay. I know we just haven't done one of these in a long time, so just
Yes, sir,
wanted
there's some of the things.
the process.
Like I say, it's, like I say, this one to me was very different because of particularly the COVID. But there have been past community development block grants where you could actually do like rental homes or maybe even vacant. But under this particular program, it had to be home owner occupied. So it made it very restrictive. Years ago, you had some latitude about how you did the deferred payment, but you don't anymore. When in the application, it says if you get our money, this is how you're going to have to structure things.
Okay. All right, any other questions for Mr. Green at this time? Okay. Anyone in the audience wishing to speak on this matter? Any comments on the program? Okay, I'm not seeing any.
Here, I'd move we close the public hearing.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second to close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. I don't think we need any action on this, so thank you very much,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Green.
I'd like to give a personal thanks to town as far as the administration and all staff. I don't think I could have done it without their assistance. I know I couldn't, so I greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for coming this evening. Appreciate it. Okay, we'll move on now to our next public hearing. It's system development fees. In accordance with North Carolina General Statute 162A-209, subsection B, the governing body shall conduct a public hearing prior to considering adoption of the analysis with any modifications or revisions. I guess Ted will be presenting that. This time I'll entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Ted, turn it over to you, sir.
Okay. Gentlemen, thank you for letting me present this evening. As you know, in accordance with North Carolina law, the town has reviewed the economic analysis that determines how the utility system development fees are set. This process began when I presented the conclusions of the analysis to the council at the December 2023 meeting. In accordance with the law, we posted the complete report on the town website for at least 45 days and invited public comment. During this time, I did receive one inquiry from a concerned citizen, and I placed that citizen in direct contact with the company that performed the analysis in hopes that the concerns or questions would be addressed adequately. The next step in the process is to hold this public hearing to discuss any further input from the public or address any further concerns the public may have. Once this hearing is complete, council may set the fees to be at any level up to the maximum level as recommended by the analysis. This includes the possibility of keeping them at the present level. Also, the council may wish to enact any changes at specified dates, such as July 1st, when the annual changes of the fee schedule historically go into effect. This analysis does address the county capacity fee by adding the statement to the published rate schedule that the town will assess this charge in addition to the development fees assessed. So this is the current system development fee table listed in the existing town fee schedule. And this is the proposed table. Please note that the total increase of the fee is roughly double of the existing fee. Also, we will include the statement at the bottom to incorporate the county sewer capacity charge. So as mentioned, the council is encouraged to hear any comment from the public if there is any. We can address the concern, and then staff recommends that the council set the fees at the maximum level as allowed by the revised economic analysis, and also to please take effect on July 1, 2024. That's all I have as far as this is concerned, and I'll take any questions, comments, concerns from you gentlemen or the public in general.
Any questions for Ted from council?
So I did have a question. Do we have any type of a comparison chart between us and others? I mean, you know.
I didn't create that chart, but I do have both Clayton's and the counties available. So for an example, where we are asking for, let's use 1 inch, which is the third line down, 3388, Clayton asks for $20,000, and the county is asking for $26,425. So we are significantly cheaper,
That is significant.
significantly.
So for
And
what,
that's published from their website. I mean, I don't want to.
what's the average household use?
So the average household uses that 5/8 inch. That's a residential unit on general. Clayton, on their website, posts an $8,000 fee, and the county posts $10,570. And we are at about $1,360 there, as you can see.
Say that again?
I'm sorry.
Clayton?
Clayton, for a residential, is about $8,000. The county, $10,570. And we're at $1,358
Proposed.
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 We're
Proposed.
currently at
Yeah,
what?
currently we're at 650.
Yeah.
But they've gone through the same,
They have gone, I know that the county did theirs last year. They upped theirs from whatever it was to whatever it is in 2023. I don't know the timeline on Clayton's, I just pulled it off their website today.
and this was done last year?
The county's was, our analysis was done in the fall and in the late summer.
Can you tell me, maybe I'm dense, can you tell me exactly, so what do these fees cover the cost of?
So the system development fees are the fees we levy for future growth. So they'd be any kind of capital improvement if you were building a subdivision, say out in West Smithfield across the street from, say, Amazon. And I had to reach that by upsizing some lines. There would be a cost associated with that. I had to accommodate that, perhaps a bigger pump station for sewer or a bigger water line. Anything that would accommodate that growth, that's what fees, system development fees were always designed to cover, future growth.
So just asking a question, so if could that possibly be one of the justifications for the county, because if the county adds something, they got longer to go to get to where they're going in many cases, right? They've got to build the infrastructure. They're not, in a town, we're limited in our ability unless somebody annexes, right? I mean, our area footprint is a lot smaller than Clayton is, by the way, because Clayton's expanded out. They're pretty big too. I'm just saying, could that not also be one of their justifications for their fees being much higher than ours?
I didn't read through their report because it would
Okay.
be within their report. But, I mean, if you're looking at their future infrastructural growth at the county, we are talking about a rather large sewer plant and a very robust capital plan all across the county. Clayton as well, they're building their sewer plant and they're having to make large capital expenditures to accommodate that. It just is.
So if we decided we wanted to build a sewer plant, we could charge them $20,000 or $10,000 for the stuff so we can pay for our sewer plant? Is that what we?
Whatever the analysis would prove, sir, but roughly in that ballpark would not be, I would not be surprised.
If y'all will look on page 41, at the very bottom of the page, you get a definition of system development fee, and you can only charge what it says the cost of capital improvement necessitated by and attributable to the particular new development. So it's pretty strictly defined on page 41.
So then then what would that be?
That would be, in other words, if you're going to have to expand your sewer plant from 9.5 million gallons per day to 13.5 and on up, then you would approximately, you would allocate that cost over new development. In other words, how much would be created by, like they say, certain subdivisions or certain commercial developments or whatever. And it would, the more capacity they've got to have, it's a capacity fee. In other words, we've got to have that much capacity in our system, and we pass it on to new development, and we only pass on the added capacity required by that new development. So we're not, so the purpose of it is so the charge does not go back on the existing homeowner, okay? So his sewer bill doesn't go up because new development is here. New development pays for the increased capacity of sewer in the lines or in the pump stations or in the sewer plant. Fair to-
Correct. That's correct.
I guess, but see, again, I'm just saying, I'm trying to figure out, if I'm trying to do, I'm a black and white type of guy, so I'm trying to figure out if we're looking at increasing the fee, not just because we can get more, but because we justify more. They're justifying what they're doing in building, if both of them are building sewer facilities. Okay, they're justifying their actions to be what Bob just said. So the question is for us to go up on our rates from what we're charging today, there must be justification for doing it. And how high can we go to meet our justification? Because to your point, we don't want to have existing taxpayers like me or others in here pay for this new development. We want the people putting their new houses in to pay for their development. So what is the formula that we're using to say we fall within this range? This is what we should do at a minimum, and this is what we should do if we're looking at a percent higher. You see my point? There's got to be, it's not, I don't like doing the finger in the wind type thing. You know, how do we
No.
come up with a
All right.
legitimate
So
mathematical
the system
number?
development fees were passed by law, and the law was pretty ambiguous in the beginning. It said you could choose one of three options, methods on how you define or defend your economic analysis. And I don't know the difference between the three, because what the key point is for the town of Smithfield is if we had to hire a firm that was experienced and qualified at economic analysis for such things, which is what we did back in 2018. And we use the same firm again with the presumption that they did it the first time, they ought to know what they're doing for the second time. So they did the revamp and the review. Their analysis is in the report. I don't want to pretend to be an expert, but there is a methodology. It is explained within the report on how they did it. Their conclusion was this was the maximum level you are allowed to charge up to, and that's the table that I'm presenting in a different form. It's in there, that report also, it's all online. And of course, I recommend all the way to the maximum. There's no reason to hold back any that I can think of. So that's where that is. If there are specific questions as to the methodology or the numbers or anything crunched, I'll be happy to get you in contact with the company that did. In fact, that's what I did with our concerned citizen, who we may yet hear from anyway. But still, I'd be happy to move that on because admittedly, I'm not a CPA, which is really the heart of the economic analysis is time value, the replacement cost, depreciation, and all that.
I think you've answered my question. The question was, the answer is, we've had experts go evaluate it, and that's what they had to, based upon their calculations, which we may understand, they came up with this number
That's
that
correct.
says what we need to have to legitimately be able to pay for our future expansions, what we can charge, what we should be charging. I mean, that's
Yeah,
basically what
the
it
key
says.
in the law is it defensible in a court of law?
Right.
We don't ever hope to find out, but yes, that's why they put their seal on it.
Okay, that's what I needed to know.
Mayor, I have a couple of questions. Mr. Critter, thank you for bringing this data. Can you speak on how the debt is affected by this. Obviously, the better your capital improvement plan is, gives you the outreach, but how does it reach back, for example, with the remodel of our water plant, that debt, that was not part of this? And also, will you speak on depreciation and how that affected this?
I know that he thought heavily of depreciation. It's a replacement cost. The more aged the system, the more likely you are you'd have to replace it because if it's crumbled. And replacement cost now is way more than it was, say, 50 years ago. So the more aged the system, the higher the fee. The more newer it's kind of counterintuitive. The newer system we have, like the newer parts of town, are actually less weighted. The debt in and of itself, I'm not sure how, based on recent conversation, and I don't want to presume to talk into it that way, Councilman Scott, but I believe that, I know the debt for the water plant loan was considered because I sent it to them, as well as the 10-year capital plan. I sent them the amortization schedule that we received from the state. So however they incorporated it, it was incorporated. I couldn't begin to tell you how. But I'd be happy to track that down for you and get that answer.
Yeah, and Mayor, I think it's important that we, obviously we're in a public hearing, that considering this as an enterprise fund where these fees will be received and how they're expended, that it's so important that we keep in mind and stay grounded that our effort needs to be to keep the least impact on the end user. Those are the people paying the water bills, the people that own the houses, and being able to have a fee structure that's reasonable and effective to collect from the developer is extremely important, because I caution this council on adopting these numbers when we need to make sure we've got the most clear understanding, because if you recall several years ago when we had the sewer, much related to I&I, we had to make major adjustments. I think there were some calculations that we figured out. But my point is, the end user had to pay the bill. How do you affect it? You increase the rates. And if this is planned properly, it will have much less impact on the people that call Smithfield home. And, you know, if you add, the other confusing factor is the sewer capacity. But I'll go ahead and say, I don't think we're ready to adopt this. I think we need to look at this a little bit more in detail to make sure we understand what we're doing, because there's some ambiguity in some of these numbers, in my opinion.
Okay. Do you have like specific ones, Councilman Scott, as far as the numbers go? Just so I can entrust. Yeah, I think Ted was kind of wondering that, right? So do you know which ones? Or
I will be very clear. Thank you, Mayor. In fact, you have to look at the data that they were given, the analyst. But I'm a community servant. We have to look at our competitors and what are we doing. And the thing that distracts me is the numbers we just spoke of what they were in the county and in Clayton. But I do know that the Clayton is in the process of improving and expanding tremendously their sewer plant. So they have a huge capital improvement plan, but and equal for the county, which is different. But we just built a huge improvement on our water plant, and these numbers seem to be relative offset, not in a positive manner, to help capture that. Just my observation. Now, I think that looking at that is hugely important. And specifically, Mayor, much like our utility for electric, some of these large numbers at the bottom, these over 2-inch, without getting into details about what others are charging, that almost needs to be a number, a percentage that's administratable and the cost of the install. Because if you say, oh, we're going to charge $67,000 for that 6-inch main and it costs the town $150,000, we're at a loss immediately because of the way this is published. That's just one of my concerns. So it could say a percentage of for the administrative, and then it could say the cost of the install. And just something, it's just very simple in my mind. But I just think that we should talk a little more about this. And
Can't do administrative, right? Administrative says the term does not any other form of financial pay for administrative.
I think Ted can tell you, you do not have discretion on what you're going to charge. You can charge less than that, but you can only charge for capacity. So the county is expanding their capacity from 9.5 million gallons a day in the sewer plant. And they're going to try to add 4 million gallons a day. Maybe 3.5 of that will be actively used for new development. So they can get a cost of what it costs to add 3.5 million gallons capacity. They can divide that by the per gallons per day they think the average residents will use, or average pharmaceutical plant will use, because they'll use a lot more. It does become a formula, and it's only that capital cost. So that capital cost to increase the size of that capacity. And it can be plant, it could also be whatever else you need. Like, we're lucky, I think most of our lines are fairly large, Ted.
Yeah, it could be increased pipe size, could be bigger pumps, it could be anything of that nature, any capital expenditure. We cannot include things like the rising cost of chemicals, operational costs of that nature.
It's a capital improvement.
Mr. Spence, I agree and I understand, but I disagree that we don't have control of it, because we have total control of what our capital plan looks like. And if it's not detailed enough, I mean, the county has a 20-year capital plan, and we said we'd give them a 10. So there is 10 years difference there. Now, I mean, that's just my opinion, but I just feel like that.
The county's got a 20-year plan because they're going to expand their plant so that at a certain year they can handle 12 million gallons. At a certain year they can handle 13 million gallons. At a certain year they can handle 15 million gallons. I think it goes up to about 18 million gallons or something.
Yeah.
So I mean, that is a capacity increase.
Yeah.
I mean, their ability to handle the sewer.
I don't have anything else to say.
Okay. Any other comments from the council?
Yeah, but I can understand the county's calculations, but they ain't in trouble. I understand exactly what they're doing. It makes logical sense. You can see a black and white number to do that with, because you know what they're doing. I mean, and they have to do it. So there's really, whatever it costs them to do, if it's $50,000, I mean, they got to do what they got to do because they know where they got to go. On our case, where are we going? It goes back to what I'm saying, you know, that's really the factor, is we got to know where we're going and then what it's going to cost to get there, and then we can take those numbers to get there.
Right, and in January of '23 and every 2 years, and you'll get it again in January '25, I update the 10-year plan. Granted, it's only 10 years. That's just because years 11 through 20 that's guesswork. We all know that. It's almost fairly guesswork 10 years out, but there is an art to that. And we are looking at that, and the council approves every other year a 10-year updated plan. And we do that for lots of reasons. One of the reasons is in case we have an analysis that requires it. We do this kind of thing, you know, we have loans and grants from the state that require a current plan. And that's why, you know, we do it for lots of reasons, but one of them is. But again, I'm not, because I still recommend we enact it in July. If you're not comfortable, by no means do I want to push this on anyone. I'd rather you be comfortable at the time you adopt it. I absolutely do. So I'm not opposed to looking it over again, if that's what the council chooses.
Any other questions from council? Anyone in the audience wishing to speak on this matter, if you will, please come forward. State your name and address for the record, please.
I have had some new information. And I also do not have enough.
I can share with him.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I mean, you think about
Run it like a citizen's comment because I didn't know exactly how to do it. One of the things that I did not realize when I wrote it was that we had a capital improvement plan. There was nothing that I found that said what it was and where it was. And Pam and I were the ones that talked to the gentleman that did the study. Well, he didn't do the study. He was going to sign off on the study. Mr. Cradle was kind enough to give us the information so we could chat with him to see if he could answer some of our questions. He said that he only used two figures because he said the capital improvement plan was only debt. So that means we're not taking in any money, right? And so therefore, it was not going to help to use it. So anyway, didn't know that before I wrote this.
So the definition of a capital improvement plan is preparing for that, is
Right,
debt.
right.
Is debt, okay.
But I mean,
I just
that's
wanted-
what the man told us. He said.
There's no revenue, per se.
But he said that all we had was debt.
Right.
So he did not use that, and that's why he used what he did. Is that correct?
As far as I know, yes, ma'am.
Okay. So the question I wrote was, what was the average build in Smithfield? Was it a 2-bedroom house, 3-bedroom house, 3.5-bedroom house? And the reason I asked that question is because when you're deciding tonight whether you're going to address this, the system fee, it matters the size of the bedrooms, the size of the home that you're going to be running the pipes to, running the water to, getting rid of the sewer. It all matters on the size of the home. So we're basing our fees on growth and the size of the average home, and it matters. So the development of a 10, which I did not realize, or a 20-year capital improvement plan, because of the cost of additional improvements to the water and sewer system, will be necessary to accommodate our future growth. So that will be things that we should be able to add. Our present bulk capacity fee for the town paying the county is $10.60. If you assume a new project is permitted for sewer at 75 gallons per day per bedroom with 3 bedrooms, the town will owe the county about $2,403 per lot, and we only collect 763, as far as I could tell. If that's incorrect, Mr. Cradle will have to.
Isn't that in addition to?
That's the note at the bottom, the county. So the way we would do a house, regardless of bedrooms, is it's based on the size of the meter. So if it was 2 or 3 bedrooms, we would go with the 5/8 inch, the 1,358. But the flow, the charge for the flow would be based on what the $10.60 we would charge that on top of.
Right, so so we'll collect 700, according to your math here, 763 plus 24.
No, we're going to collect 1,358 plus.
Well, with our new one, 1,300
Yeah.
plus 24. So
Right.
we're covering the county.
Yeah, we're going to cover the county.
Okay. Good to know. The purposes of system of development fee for the sewer doesn't even cover a third of that with the way I was reading it.
Right, I get it.
The capital improvement plan at the minimum should include any of the anticipated capacity fees owed to the county in addition to the improvements that we're planning on making in the future. And we should dream big. We should not think small, because if we really anticipate the growth that supposedly is going to happen in this area, then we're going to have to lay pipes, we're going to have to lay lines of all sorts, along with electricity and everything else. It's going to cost something for us if we don't put it in some plan. The plan is like a wish list. The plan is for big projects for growth. You aren't penalized if growth doesn't happen because we're assuming that growth is going to occur. You can always make adjustments afterwards. if it doesn't for some reason grow. But the present systems fee analysis that I read did not appear to me that it showed growth on that analysis that y'all have. Also, I match our water capacity of 5.3 million gallons that will need to be purchased from the county, and 5 million gallons at a minimum of $10.86. With this growth, we will need to buy a sewer capacity, and these items can be included in our capital improvement plan, and I'm assuming they are. Are they?
The purchase of sewer?
Mhm.
No, ma'am, that's done per the developer when they develop.
So we can't use it.
I wouldn't want to incur the debt.
Well, that's what I'm saying. We can't use it on a capital improvement plan if
Oh, no,
somebody
no.
else is paying.
Yeah, that's correct.
We have to assume prices will go up, improvements will need to be made, growth will continue for our county, and all of these expenditures should be able to be put in the capital improvement plan if the developer doesn't pay for it.
The developer doesn't pay for it, he's not going to develop.
He's not going to get it.
Right.
Right.
I mean, it's simple.
Well, you're the one that's got to make him do it, right?
Yes, ma'am. We do assess the fee, and they pay
I
it.
can assure you there will not be.
Well, they don't get it,
permits
they don't get a
by this
certificate of
board.
occupancy, and they don't get a water meter.
No water meter.
We have put our water plant debt into the cost of the water already, so we can't use the water plant debt again. So that's why you couldn't use it in this proposal, from what he said. He said you've already used it once.
I will trust his word on that.
This analysis report, in this analysis report, there are many questions and concern, and we need to be addressed. And in my opinion, before you vote and seal the fate with a price that we don't know if that is going to cover our cost, I think there should be other information and some more conversation. Thank you. Oh, I also wanted to say, whoever was in charge of leaving the lights in town, on the poles going out River Bridge and in town, does nobody notice? They're beautiful. There's a lot of light. Y'all go downtown and
Talking
look.
about the
Candy cane.
snowflakes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the Christmas lights that are
Icicles.
white. They're just lights. The world needs more light.
Man,
Yes, ma'am.
That's good.
Yes, ma'am.
It's the snow lights.
Thank you, Ms. Coon.
Either did it on purpose or they forgot.
No, it's the
No,
snow.
We did it on,
We leave
we
them on.
did it on purpose.
The mayor brought that up several years ago. It's very effective.
thank you, Mayor.
Thank
Let you
you.
light
Anyone else wishing to, Ms. Lampy? Yes, ma'am. If you will, please state your name and address for the record, even though we know you. How are you this evening?
I'm doing well.
Good.
I'm Pam Lampy at 415 North Second Street, and I want to thank Ted for helping me and Em understand this process a lot more, and we do now. I do have a couple of questions myself. Equivalent residential units. Today, we had a meeting with Chandra also, and she said in the report you use 120 gallons, I believe, per day for sewer. And now the rule is you can only use 75 gallons per day for equivalent residential unit. So that will actually affect I think, the computation of our system development fees.
The system development fee is not based on a flow number. It's based on the size of the water meter that we serve the house on. So whether the house is producing 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms, 4 bedrooms, or 5 bedrooms, it's the 5/8 inch meter and/or the 3/4 inch meter that sets it. Whether that analysis proves the number for that meter, again, I'd have to refer you to EnviroLink and their representative.
Well, they used 120 gallons, I think, to calculate that. And I think Chandra told us today that it's recently changed to 75, which will probably even lower our fee even more.
Yeah, we wouldn't want to do that, would we?
No, but we might have to by law. So,
We'll look into it.
okay. And just from talking to Ken, the guy who, at Envirolink, this is a very complicated computation. And there's, like Ted said, there's 3 methods to doing it. And we did the buyout method, buy-in method, so that future developers are buying into our system. The county and Clayton used the combination method of the buy-in, and I think where you calculate the capital improvement program. And so Chandra says that's where she thinks we can actually grow the fees we charge, is by developing a really good and thoughtful capital improvement program. And you can do a minimum, like Ted has done, of 10 years, which, you know, I really didn't know that until tonight. You shared that you had given that to Envirolink. But she said you could do it for 20 years, and why not dream big? I mean, somebody's got to pay for, I realize the counties probably run a lot of the water, but none of the sewer. And those are big numbers for us if we have to run them. And I know the developers pay once it's in their development, but to get those sewer lines there, you have to plan. And the debt question is, I don't know, I think the county's like, well, you can dream and you don't have any debt incurred yet. So the debt won't necessarily offset the capital improvement cost. Does that make sense? Okay, well, so that's one thing we need to look into. And then even the index that you use, I think Envirolink used the index to calculate the replacement cost as the RS means index, but Clayton and the county used one that's called the Handy Whitman index, and that is more tailored to utility companies. So, and I don't know if we run the numbers, if we have to run them again, we might want to try and use the Handy Whitman index. Let's see what else. The other last thing is, I know we have the line item for the bulk, what we're going to be charging for our bulk sewer fee, but there was miscommunication, I believe, because today we were talking with Chandra, and she said that she thought that had to be worked through the system development fees and not a separate line item, and that she would be worried that bulk, the capacity fees are something two utilities charge each other, not system development fee. And she says you can only charge system development fees to the developers. So I don't know, but that's maybe a legal question for Bob. And she said, yeah. So that's what we know. And like I say, again, I thank everybody. And nobody wants to overcharge developers, but we do want to, you know, be able to afford the growth coming to us. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak on this matter? Okay. Not seeing anyone. Any other questions for the council at this time?
Mayor, I have one more question.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Credo, I understand that, talking with you briefly, I think there's a 5-year rule on this, but if we have a major change, we can do it earlier. That's why I'm concerned about us.
No, you can review the analysis as often, I believe, as often as you want. You could redo it again tomorrow if you wanted to. It has to be done within the next 3 to 5 years. I would recommend, just because of the cost of hiring a company and going through the process and the time it takes, that we do it between 3 and 5 years. We could do it again in 3 years without a problem. I mean, yeah, if council says, no, Mr. Crate, I want you to do it every year, then that's what we'll do, obviously. But I would go every 4 years, and then, and then just go with whatever recommendation. Again, pick a firm that has experience. As I might have mentioned, and I wouldn't lean towards the same firm again, not because I like them or dislike them, but they've had their eyes on it twice now. I'd probably want to get a different set of eyes on it next time. But we'll see. We'll see who applies, because we'll open, for qualifications and see who applies.
Thank you. Any other questions from council at this time? Okay. Not seeing any, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
What's the pleasure of the council?
Mayor, I see fit with the data that's presented. Obviously, we need to take action, but I would like for us to bring this up in our budget discussion, utilities, and formalize it as Mr. Crady requested, probably starting the fiscal year. But we need to make sure these numbers are right. I think there's too many questions. So essentially, my motion is to table it until our budget session with utilities, if that's clear enough.
I second the motion.
Okay. Have a motion and.
Mayor, may I make one more comment for discussion? I'm not modifying my motion, but just discussion. I just want to make sure that council understands that system development fees, this doesn't mean if somebody wants to come build a house, they have to pay these numbers. The magic number, if Mr. Credo, is 4, right? If they draw a development.
Subdivision.
Subdivision. 4.
So
4 lots.
if somebody wants to come and build on a lot that they own, I think it's important for us to note that this stuff doesn't even apply. That's all, Mayor. Sorry, I did not mean to interrupt you.
That's fine, no problem. All right, we have a motion and a second to table it until our budget discussions regarding utilities. Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Motion carries.
Thank you, gentlemen.
All right, we will move on now to citizens' comments. Anyone wishing to speak during citizens' comments, please come forward at this time.
He made those recommendations off of what they said. That's a good point, but we don't have to do that.
Okay, I'm not seeing anyone. Move now to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as stated?
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as listed.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving now to business items on page 125, I believe it is. As the chief is coming forward, our first business item is consideration and request for approval to purchase a fire engine. Chief, turn it over to you, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. You guys will just give me a second.
One close to the door.
All right. Mayor, council, thank you for allowing me to speak on the new fire engine purchase. Back in the budget discussions for fiscal year '24, the discussion was to replace the Engine 5, which is a 1992 International, on a commercial chassis, as you can see pictured here. So we went to work and put together a truck committee. And our main focus was to look at some design features that would promote safety and efficiency. Safety for our personnel, our firefighters operating on scene, and efficiency for our customers that we're serving at the incident itself. So a couple of aspects that we really wanted to focus on was our lowering our hose beds, looking at the use of rear discharges off the back of the apparatus, lower compartments for hose packages, we'll talk about that in just a moment, and then hard hose bed covers which have the integrated traffic advisors in them. So just a couple of visual effects so you can see on the left here when we talk about the height of our hose beds. On the left is an engine that we currently are using. That's actually engine 2, which is the 2021 Smil Spartan. If you notice, with a firefighter standing on the ground, can barely reach the bottom of the hose bed. The picture on the right is a much lower hose bed for this firefighter here. Obviously, it's about shoulder height, which allows those firefighters to reach up, grab an attack line, and be able to pivot while staying on the ground, not having to get up on the tailboard of the truck to pull that hose line off. So the purpose of the low hose bed, obviously, it makes us more efficient. It also reduces the possibility of injury, making that pivot to deploy the hose line while stepping off the back bumper of the truck. When we look at rear discharges, and this is actually a cutout of one of our proposed fire engines, you can see if I can get this to work here. You can see on the back of the truck here, there are discharges coming out of the rear for all of the attack lines from the rear hose bed. What this allows us to do is it gives us the opportunity to effectively change the type of hose line that we are utilizing. And we can make a call on the fire scene to make that change. Firefighters don't have to add an appliance in the middle of the hose. They can go to the apparatus itself while maintaining contact with the ground again. For some of our apparatus, obviously, you would have to get up in the hose bed to make those changes. Lower compartments for our hose packages, and we'll go back here. We'll go back here to the same picture that you've seen before, but I'll draw your attention to the top left corner of the hose bed. This is a shelf that we have for some of our packages that we have, our Y-Pack, different appliances that we use. What we're proposing in this spec, or what we're looking for, and again, this is the back of that same draft drawing, engineered drawing, is to place that compartment below the ladder rack so that we can access that from the ground again. So a lot of those appliances can be heavy with the Y-Pack, with the sprinkler connections, with those different appliances that we have. So pulling that off of the top of the truck and then again making that turn, stepping down off the bumper, obviously could twist an ankle or even worse, break a bone, in which we all know we don't want any more of that. Our hard hose bed covers, as you can see, and this is a Spartan brand, which we do have a proposal for. The hard hose bed cover has a traffic advisor in the top of that. This is the hose bed area here, and you can see that puts the directional lights up above the hose bed itself so that oncoming traffic, drivers coming into an incident where we have that fire apparatus on the street, we can give them some direction before they actually arrive on our scene, again, increasing the safety for our personnel operating on scene. That hard hose bed cover also provides a solid surface for the events that we have to utilize a master string device on top of the apparatus. It gives a solid surface up there, and again, as you guys can see, there are structural members underneath. It's not just a piece of diamond plate, a diamond tread plate that's put up there to cover the hose. There's actually some structure. It can hold some weight in the event that we need to get up there. So, what everybody's been waiting for, right? How much is this going to cost us? We had initially gotten an approval for $900,000. We did have one company, a dealer, that did not want to bid on the project because they felt like they wouldn't be able to meet our time constraints. And so First Choice Fire and Safety, they did send us an email and said they did not feel like they could meet that. We got a proposal from Atlantic Coast Fire Trucks, and we also received a proposal from Fire Connections. We've done business with both of these dealers before. The rescue truck, which is being built now, we purchased that from Fire Connections. It's a E1 brand. Our engines that we've had for a couple of years now, as well as our ladder truck, our platform, all three of those apparatus have come from Atlantic Coast Fire Trucks. So we know the products that we're getting from both of these companies. As you can see, Atlantic Coast Fire Trucks proposal is at $889,788, whereas Fire Connections is at $883,951. There's a couple of differences here. Atlantic Coast Fire Trucks, when we look at the spec, it meets all of our objectives. It meets our specifications, but it meets all the objectives that we're trying to accomplish. Our lower hose beds, our compartments that we're looking for, our rear discharges, the hard hose bed covers with the directional light above the hose bed. The Spartan or Atlantic Coast Fire Trucks does meet all of those requirements or our objectives. Fire Connections does not quite meet all of those. They can get a hose bed. It's not quite as low as what we would hope, but is certainly lower than what we currently have. The hose bed cover, they can provide a hard hose bed, but they also told us that they could not put the directional light, the traffic advisor, in that hard hose bed cover. So what that does, it brings that directional light down, actually underneath the hose bed. And the concern with that is if there's a vehicle that's parked behind that apparatus, they wouldn't be able to see that. Other oncoming vehicles would not be able to see that directional light. So that's the reason we wanted to raise that up. Fire Connections, they could pretty much do just about everything else that we were looking for. The big difference between these two manufacturers, these two dealers, is the build time. Atlantic Coast Fire Trucks, the Spartan brand, the build time on that is 622 calendar days, whereas the E1 from Fire Connections is 850 to 875 days. So why does that make a big difference if we're looking at paying this basically throughout 3 different budget years? The powertrain. The powertrain is the difference that we're looking at. The Spartan, the apparatus that we have, the engines that we have currently, they all have, those 2 engines have the L9 Cummins motor with the Allison 3000 transmission. And that's what we were looking for out of this new engine. We wanted the same powertrain package that we had in the others. E1 was not able to provide a proposal for the L9 Cummins engine. The reason they could not is because of that build time. They would not be able to get that powertrain package within that build time because of the EPA mandates that all of us are falling under. And we'll go into that in just a moment. Spartan can provide a spec, they can provide a proposal for the L9 Cummins engine with the Allison 3000 transmission. And they have done that, and that is reflected in the price that we have in front of us. But they did put a disclaimer, because they have to, they did put a disclaimer in there that says that if that L9 engine is not available at the time of our build slot, then they would automatically upgrade to an X12. An X12 has to be coupled with that 4000 Allison transmission. So that total package presently, right now, is about $45,000 upgrade. And by that time, it could be $60,000, okay? So in that discussion and seeing that disclaimer, I've had many discussions with our dealer and many discussions with representatives from Spartan Smil themselves. And they feel very confident that as long as we have something in place by April the 1st of this year, as far as executing a contract, awarding the bid to them, that we'll have no problem receiving that L9 Cummins engine, but they have to put that as a disclaimer. And if you notice, the build time for the Spartan, 622 days, if we execute this contract fairly quickly, we're looking at about November, December of 2025 to have that apparatus being delivered. The problem is the 2027 EPA mandates, okay? So in 2027, the EPA has said that these engines, powertrains, have to meet a certain emissions, okay? And there's a 432-page document that I'm certainly not going to read to you, but basically I'll give you a summary of it. It says that we can't use the L9 Cummins and we can't use the X12 Cummins in apparatus that we purchase after that time. So what these companies are doing is they're trying to, a lot of the manufacturers have bought up a lot of these L9 engines, and when they run out, we're not going to get any more of them, okay? Still going to continue to make parts, that's no problem, but they just cannot build them because of emissions. So what's going to happen after 2027? They're working currently on an X10, which is a 10-liter Cummins engine. It is going to have to be coupled with that 4,000 transmission as well. Now, we don't know what that's going to look like as far as a cost, but there's estimates around $110,000 that we've been given for that X10 engine. And so why do I bring that up? It's so that we fully understand what that disclaimer looks like and what it means for us. Now, we've been reassured from our manufacturer and our dealer that they are very confident anything before April 1st that we will have that L9 engine in our fire truck. So, with all that being said, recommendation, staff respectfully recommends the purchase from Atlantic Coast Fire Trucks at the specified price of $889,788. And I'll certainly entertain any questions that you may have.
Any questions for the council?
What's the difference in a Spartan truck and a Smil?
Smil was actually bought out by Spartan. They still kind of carry that name. We're getting the same quality of an engine as we have received over the past couple of years.
So it'll match up to units, is that what you're saying?
It will, for the most part, with the exception of the, yes, sir, with the exception of the changes that we're looking to make. The design changes, but they'll be very similar, and the quality, craftsmanship will be the same.
Are we going to retire engine 2, or are we going to just add this to our fleet?
Engine 5, it will be replacing engine 5. It will be replacing engine 5,
Can we
yes, sir.
sell that? What kind of resale value do you think is on that? Do you know?
We might get, I don't know, we might get $5,000. We might get $15,000.
Depends on the
I'm not
auction.
sure.
Do you anticipate any more new trucks?
We do have in our CIP, our capital improvement plan, the need to replace engine 4 coming up in 26, 27.
Engine 4 or 4 trucks?
No, engine 4, I apologize. If you would like to purchase those 4 trucks, we will put them to use, sir.
Take them.
But that would be engine 4 replacement at that time.
In 2 more years, you said?
Yes, it would be 2 years.
And is this the money we've already been allocating, the $300,000?
Yes.
For this specific?
We allocated $300,000
Last
in
year.
the current budget.
or this current budget,
And we'll do it again in next year's budget.
and then
And then one
300.
more time when, that'll be the year the truck's delivered.
It'll be paid for when it arrives.
Yes. So,
Good deal. I was gonna make a note that a lot of the fire departments are giving away their fire trucks at the end to public schools, firefighter program, because they're not much money in them. And they can use the fact that they give the trucks away. If they're doing grant writing, it always looks good on a grant that you gave to the local school system. You supported them. I mean, I'm not telling you to do that, but I'm saying that's what we're seeing across the state. That's why a lot of they're getting, because they can't really, nobody's buying. You wouldn't buy a used fire truck. I mean, I just think, because they're wore out. I mean, 30-some years, they're wore out. How many miles those vehicles got on?
So the engine 5, the one we're replacing now, is right around 40,000.
Used fire trucks.
How much?
Right around 40,000 on engine 5. Now, it was a different, it had a different use when it was first purchased. For many years, it was used solely as a tanker. So it would go into the rural areas, it would go mutual aid, to incidents in the mutual aid areas. And so really and truly, those apparatus, engine 5 and engine 4, didn't get used quite as frequently as some of our other apparatus are. And so we actually have more mileage on our engine 1, our 2017 SMEAL. And unfortunately, as you guys hear in most council meetings, these guys are going out pretty frequently, so.
Other questions?
We have one question, and it doesn't apply to the fire chief, but I don't think Mr. Siler's here, but Mike, do you know if we took out a loan on this, what the rates are? Obviously, we have the funds to do it, but I didn't know what those numbers were.
Well, we wouldn't take out the loan until the truck was
Right.
delivered.
So I
it's
guess it would be determined on the.
hard to
market
say
rate.
what it's going to be in 2 years.
I was just curious.
So Chief, just want to make clear though, so Fire Connections at 883,000 is quoted with the X12 engine.
It is quoted with the X12 engine, that's correct.
So I hear what you're saying, but I don't like to do business with, well, we feel comfortable that they're going to give us the X9 engine. There is the possibility that the truck could be $45,000 to $60,000 more. There's a possibility.
There is a possibility, Mayor, and that's the reason I bring it up, and I want to be completely honest and open with you guys. A couple of things that I do want to point out that I didn't put in the presentation is Atlantic Coast is building a service center shop in the Pine Level area, and so they will be close by us to provide for any needs that we would have. There's a couple of small things, differences that I just want to make sure that we understand, and that is things like wheelbase, where it doesn't sound like a lot, but E1, the wheelbase that we have is 204 inches on a wheelbase, whereas Spartan is 192. Those types of things do make a big difference operating in town. And not being able to have the rear discharges on the E1. E1 does have a low hose bed. Fire Connections truck does have a lower hose bed, but it does not get us to the point where we are with Spartan. There are some features with the Spartan apparatus that meets everything that we're trying to accomplish with our safety aspects. And so you're absolutely correct. It could be $45,000 to $60,000 more than what that quoted price is. Could be.
And then all the specs that you guys gave, those specs were sent out to both companies at the same time?
That's correct.
Right, so nothing changed in
That's
that
correct.
If it changed for both?
It changed for both,
Right.
and we've asked the same thing for both companies. We asked E1 for an L9 engine with the 3,000 transmission. We asked E1 for the lower hose bed, which, again, they did provide, but it's just half a foot taller than the other. And now keep in mind, that's without the rear discharges. Those discharges are up in the bed toward the front of the hose bed. There were certainly some differences there, I mean, and some small things, brake drum size on the rear of the apparatus. And again, we go through every nut and bolt on these apparatus when we spec them, so, but E1 did quote a smaller brake drum on the back of the apparatus, 7 inches versus 8.63 inches. Now, is the apparatus going to stop? Yes, it's going to stop. It's probably going to be fine. But I have to think about the wear and tear on that apparatus in every aspect. And so while that's a small thing, over time, 10, 15 years down the road, what is that going to turn into? And I have to think about those things as well.
And then one more question is regarding the transmissions. Why the desire for the L9? You may have said that and I may have missed it, but.
So we do have that same engine in our other fire trucks, in our other fire engines. And it's just a simplicity thing for us. Now, for our rescue truck, we do have an X12 with the 4,000. But that was because we needed an increased horsepower. We needed that larger powertrain, if you will, to get that bigger apparatus down the road. And so that L9 was what we were looking for simplicity, for maintenance, and everything else. So can we live with the X12? Yes, we can.
Chief, is the warranty the same on those two trucks?
The warranty on the Spartan is a 2-year warranty, whereas the warranty on the E1 from Fire Connections is only a 1 year. We did ask for a 2-year warranty from both, which is standard for Spartan. That's what we're used to. But we asked for that to be the same on both of them.
Do they offer extended warranty?
We can purchase that. I think for the rescue truck to get those apples to apples, I believe it was another $15,000 to $18,000. So just that in itself would put E1 or Fire Connections basically right at $900,000.
Any other questions?
We wouldn't need to decide on an extended warranty until probably right before delivery, right?
What we would do if the council decides to go with Fire Connections, we would execute the contract, and whatever's written in that contract and that spec is what we would rely on. But it's already a 2-year warranty with the Atlantic Coast.
Mayor, I make a motion, staff's recommendations to let them execute the contract on the Atlantic Coast one as requested.
Second.
We still can have discussion. I just want, we're running out
I
of
do
time.
have one question.
Oh, go ahead. No problem.
Yeah.
So you said the L9, X12, whatever is going away in 2027, correct?
That's correct.
Due to emission issues or emission problems. Did I hear you correctly say there'll still be parts available for that after 2027?
That's correct. Mhm.
So we're not buying an obsolete engine after?
No, sir. No, sir.
They
They're
just
just
want
not,
me to
they're just not
emission-
making any new L9s or X12s at that point because they won't meet the EPA
Right.
emissions
I just
regulations.
want to make sure that we would be able to get parts to fix, to keep that thing operating.
Yeah. The Cummins engines are going to be around for a long time, I believe, so.
That was my, you'd hate to buy a $1 million truck almost in 4 years, 3 years, it's obsolete to you, so.
Right.
All right. I just want to verify that. Thank you. Sorry.
Oh, no, no.
I have one comment. I have no,
Discussion.
I have one comment. My comment is, first of all, I appreciate our firemen. I appreciate our fire department. I appreciate the detail at which you guys go through identifying what you need. Not necessarily what you want, but what you need and how it's going to meet our needs going forward. I also know that our fire department as a whole seems to get older, you know, and therefore the ease of access to these things are also more beneficial than they may have been in the years past. So I recognize that, and I just want you to know, I certainly think you did an outstanding job presenting this. I think you covered everything you needed to cover, and, you know, my personal opinion, I see no reason why we wouldn't support, you know, what y'all's recommendations was. So just, I want to make my comment before we voted.
Thank you, sir.
All right, any further discussion? A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Now he wants more money. We give him one thing and he wants.
I know, you just might as well keep going, might as well keep going.
Fireman can never be happy.
Yeah, deal with the police chief.
He's coming next month.
All right, moving on to our next business item. It's a consideration and request for approval to purchase a fire compressor.
Good evening, gentlemen. Thank you again for allowing me to get up here and speak to you this evening about the compressor system that we have. So let's get started here. Excuse me. In the current budget year, current budget, we have allotted to the replacement of the SCBA containment unit about $20,000. As you guys can see, I'm sorry, let me back up here. As you guys can see, this is our compressor room, and I'll just kind of give you a synopsis of what happens with this. The breathing air compressor is vital to our organization as far as operations. We have air packs, look like book bags, and we carry air around in them so that we can breathe in fires. And so we have to have a compressor in order to fill these air tanks. And so I believe Chief Brown asked for the replacement of just the containment unit. And at that time, $20,000 for that unit would allow us to get this system back up operational and working fully functionally. However, since then, we have had some issues with our compressor itself. The filling station, which we will call that the containment unit itself, because that's what the actual bottles go into. And this is a picture of that Mako system here, and you can see in this area here, there's air bottles that go in to these little sleeves. There's a chute that comes up, and then we fill those bottles up and take them back out, put them on the trucks, put them back in air packs, and we move about our business. This is the portion of the system that Chief Brown was wanting to replace. The compressor itself, which has been giving us some issues over the last couple of months, it has been down several times. We've been able to repair it. You can see there's actually some parts that are missing. We've had a technician come in, make some changes to that compressor and kind of, if you will, put a Band-Aid on it to get us back up and running. The problem with that is getting that technician here It does take some very valuable time to do that. Our mutual aid departments, they do have compressors. However, if we travel to our mutual aid departments, that takes our people out of our town and where we have to go fill up bottles and then come back. We also utilize the compressor to fill our Cascade system on the rescue truck and the large breathing air bottles on our platform. And so we have several different apparatus that have some large storage tanks, which we can utilize while on scene, but we still have to have those. We have to have a compressor to fill those up. So, since we've been having issues with our compressor and being out of service for extended periods of time, we've asked staff to investigate what it would take to replace the entire system. So we received proposals from AEST Fire and Safety in the amount of $53,333, Reinhardt Fire Services, $61,000, and Safe Air Systems, $66,620.93. So, how are we going to pay for this? We've got $20,000 that's allocated for the replacement of the filling station or the containment unit. If we reallocate that $20,000 to the purchase price of $53,000, going to AEST for the low bid there, then we still have a deficit of $33,333. That deficit could be fulfilled by utilizing unallocated fire supplement funds from Johnston County. So currently we have an anticipated surplus from those funds of $104,866. And after fulfilling the deficit, the $33,000, we would have a surplus of $71,533. Staff respectfully recommends the approval of the purchase of new breathing air compressor system from AEST Fire and Safety in the amount of $53,333. And with that, I will be glad to entertain any questions that you may have.
How old is the makeup compressor we have now?
I'm sorry, sir?
How old is the compressor we have now, the makeup?
That's about 24 years old.
It's great.
What, roughly, if you know, what kind of cost have you incurred repairing it over the last?
I do know the last time we had a technician come out, he didn't charge us for coming out there. He showed the guys a few things that they could do to kind of Band-Aid because they've been out here several times. It's not uncommon to have a technician charging $125 to $150 an hour. And so these guys have been great working with us to try to keep us up and running. Depending on what it costs each time they come out, what has to be replaced, what has to be done, we've seen some $400 and $500 expenses. And so over the last 6 months, they've been out 7 times. And so varying cost. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't say that it was uncommon to spend a couple $100 each time, average.
But each time it was down.
It was down for extended periods of time. And,
those 7 times, basically.
And I say that it has been down for a couple of days, and it's been down for a couple of weeks. And so I've had extensive conversation with, obviously, our mutual aid departments, as well as Chief Ellington up at Cleveland. They have a mobile compressor trailer, and in fact, I think it may have been down one time for a day or two while ours was down. So it really is concerning that we can't fill up our own air bottles.
Didn't we? I have no issues with this, but didn't we talk about having the ability to, on one of our trucks, to fill the bottles? Did that? Did we have that, or did that
We,
not
we,
happen?
we did talk about having a compressor on the rescue truck.
Okay, but we didn't.
But we did not have that in.
Not to do it.
That's
Okay.
correct.
I thought I remember there's some discussion on that.
That's correct. Now, we do have the capabilities of a cascade system, and we currently have that where we can fill the smaller air pack bottles with.
That you would need, I mean,
That's
just
correct.
quickly
Yes, sir.
fill them as needed at a
Yes, sir.
scene or something. Okay. All right.
That's at the scene.
And that is at the scene.
Right.
Now, we do have spare bottles that we carry on the apparatus. And so operating on scene, the guys can come out, switch out air bottles and be able to go back in and we've got air, okay? And I'm not saying we're completely, out of air every time we go to a fire.
Yeah.
But when we come back to the station, we have to fill everything up.
Right.
And so that's what this unit does for us.
Curiosity, how long does one of those tanks, backpack tanks last?
Depends on how
long you suck.
how fit you are. But
Gotta shape you're in.
an average of 25, 30 minutes.
45-minute ball last.
To me, this is a critical piece of equipment, okay?
Sure.
I mean, we talk about trucks, this is a critical piece of equipment. So I don't see why we continue discussion. I make a recommendation, we approve the request as requested by the chief.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion on it?
What's the warranty?
I'm sorry?
Warranty on this piece of equipment?
So the warranty on the AEST unit, which is an Arctic compressor, is going to be a 5-year bumper to bumper. And so anything that happens in 5 years, they come and take care of it for us.
Okay.
How long will it take to get this piece of equipment?
How long will it take? I don't have an answer for that, but I can find out for you.
And does it include the Cascade bottles, or is that separate?
It does have the bottles there as well, the storage bottles for the compressing unit.
Carry on.
Motion and a second. Favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Chief. Appreciate it. Good thing we're getting ready to start talking budget again.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
All right, let's see, let's move on now to manager. You want to just budget?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. As we discussed at the last budget meeting that we had on the 23rd, I was going to have a request to move forward with a salary study here, but since we discussed it at the last meeting, I just put a general budget headline here. And I would like the council to give me some direction on where it wants to go with that. For the desires to do the salary study as we had discussed. If they do not think they want to do the salary study, they want to just review individual positions. If they want to do nothing at all and just look at salary increases in general for this budget process, I do need some direction on the council's wishes on that.
How long will it take to get the salary survey done and turned back in? We
There-
can't wait a year and a half for this year's budget.
They're anticipating about 4 months.
How's that put us in our,
Put us pretty close to the end of May.
which impacts our evaluation as far as, my question is, if we get a salary study going now, would it really help us in this particular budget cycle? Not saying we're not gonna do something for employees, I'm saying if it's gonna take us 4 months to get it done, is that really going, because we will almost be done by the time we even get it back. So the question is, how urgent matter is that to get the salary survey done now, whenever, not saying we should, you know what I'm saying? I'm saying we need data for this year's budget. There's nothing wrong with doing a salary survey, but I don't think it's as urgent matter for budgeting purposes for this cycle, because we can't really, it won't be a major impact for us this year since we won't get back until most of the decisions have already been made by June, or by the middle of May. Do you concur? What do you think?
Are you asking me?
Yes, yes, sir.
It's a good question, and it's a different type of analysis. So it depends on how you want to budget. If you want to budget a lump sum for salary changes, then you would have that money, and then you'd be able to allocate it towards the end of your budget process based on what the salary study tells you. If you don't want to do that, if you want to just say we want that salary decision made before that time, then no, it's not going to assist you with this budget number. But it's an issue that you're still going to have to address at some time. So, when you address it and how you address it, there's a lot of different ways.
So then what's your recommendation?
Well, I like have information. I'm an information person. I don't think it's good to make decisions without it, and this gives us the information we need to make good decisions. Even if we're getting it towards the end, it doesn't necessarily mean we implement it right now, but we have it, and we can plan accordingly for it, even if we want to do budget amendments sometime during the budget year.
Oh, and like you said, I think you mentioned something though too, that what we could do is we could allocate a particular percentage that we hold for doing that purpose, and then if we get the survey back in impact, we can put it around wherever we want to, because we've still allocated. So when you're trying to develop your balanced budget, we have an amount of money that we're planning on allocating for salary increases, and then we could use the data at the end to make any adjustments if it's relevant or not. Is that what you're saying? I mean,
That is exactly what I'm saying.
Okay.
Yep, that's
I
a good way to
understand
say
that. I understand that.
I agree with Mr. Scott. I think we need to use every tool possible to make sure we're paying accordingly and fairly and competitively, given how hard it is to hire any person for any job and keep. I think we should be doing everything we can to make sure we have all the information. So I would support doing this study.
And what was the cost of the study again, sir?
The total cost was $27,250 to be divided in each fund at $9,084 per fund.
As a different company.
Yeah, well, different than we used previously.
That's what I meant.
Yeah.
Now, I'm in favor of the salary study, and I'll make sure people understand, I wasn't opposed to salaries. I was trying to think timing-wise, the urgency, if we weren't going to be able to use the data, if it wasn't going to be useful for us until after the fact. I hate getting information after the fact, if we're going to get it after the fact, I'd just soon not be considered in part of the evaluation, because then it's after the fact. And now we have a budget that nobody's happy with because we didn't have the information at that time. That's all I was concerned about, but I'm not opposed to the salary survey at all. I think, to your point, I would think I'm a black and white type of guy. That's what we're talking about, the stuff about the system access fees, our allocation fees, same thing there. I need data that makes sense. Show me black and white numbers, so I don't have a problem with that, because if not, we're just kind of guessing. But I would say, even in that situation, without having the official salary survey, last time we did do some data internally and gathered some information that was relevant, that did assist us in helping move towards salary adjustments for people. So I would certainly hope that if we're doing the salary survey, it's going to take 4 months to get done, that we could also at the same time do some of that other, so we do have some of that data, and then we can validate it as we go forward. But so internally, along with the external thing. I mean, do you understand what I'm saying?
I do, and we will do that. We'll also have a better picture of what our neighbors are doing by then as well, rather than trying to make decisions early on and finding out we're ahead or behind our competitors.
Mayor, I was absent from the last workshop. I had some family things going on, but I did review the data, and I just want to say that Councilman Barber, comments he made, and couldn't echo it louder, is we need to not balance the budget on the backs of the employees, and sometimes we get ourselves in that situation. This gives us data to take care of them. They're our most valuable asset in the town. Just for the sake of time, I'll make a motion, we approve the request 27,250 to execute this, so we have the data.
I'll second that.
Okay. We have a motion and a second to approve the salary study. Any further discussion? Okay. Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
And just for clarity, that was the three funds, the enterprise funds and the, yeah.
It would be that 27,250 divided equally among all three funds.
Okay.
Further, I'll just give a quick update on where we're at with the budget for the council. We have received all of the spreadsheet requests from the department heads, as well as their capital plan for the next year and a capital improvement plan for the next 5 years. We're reviewing all of the rolling stock in each department and all of their requests. Meetings will start next week with individual departments, with finance and myself. And any personnel requests, Tim Kerrigan will be assisting with that. So we are on schedule to get something to you by the 1st of March in some type of a draft form that is balanced, so that you have a starting place so we can have meetings on budget workshop type meetings.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir. All right, moving on. Any council members' comments? Do you have any comments? All right. Not seeing any. Mr. Manager?
Mayor, I have one comment, and I don't know if this is, tell me if you would rather, we could discuss this later. On the consent, we approved some applications for appointments to downtown development, and perhaps we could get an update on that at some point. But one observation, a concern of mine, as that agency moves forward, is I would ask that it be considered that, and even if we had to put it in their contract, that they follow the open meetings law. I understand that that may not be the case, and for transparency, because it's taxpayer money, that we are aware of that, for transparency.
And I would say that as part of that board, I know we do have opportunities for citizens' comments. So I know we do, it is open to the public. We don't have any citizens show up, but we do have opportunities as part of the agenda for citizens' comments. So there is definitely open. I'm not sure if they publish that out to everyone. I'm not sure how they publish the meetings out to people so that they're aware of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know about that. That's something they probably do a better job of. But I do know we do have it in the agenda to do
They just have to
public
publish
comments.
schedule like we do if they
But
approve the schedule.
the valid point was, I don't know if they actually publish that out.
Just a point of observation, I was informed by prior management that they didn't have to follow those rules, and I know that it's a new day, so
Yeah, that's not what we've been doing since I've been there. I mean, it's been, and of course, now we're gonna have a new,
Thank you.
new manager, but they are following the rules that were there.
So, Mr. Manager, as part of your report, can you give a brief update on downtown development, where they stand? I think they've received some applications, right? You don't have to go into that. I think they've received some, as far as a new director, is that right?
Yeah,
30 emails on a plane.
DSDC has gone out for applications. They created a job description. They improved that and updated it as to their vision of what a director should be doing for DSDC. They've sought applications. They have narrowed that application pool down to 3. Those 3 have not yet been interviewed, or they have not moved the process further ahead than that at this point. We have some issues among the board with appointments. Our board president looks to be leaving DSDC, so we're going to have to change some of the leadership at the top, and that is going to require some significant effort on the part of the board. going forward.
Okay. All right. Anything else you have, sir?
Just wanted to announce again that this Saturday is the Martin Luther King Jr. Parade right here in front of Town Hall at 3 o'clock. So if you can come out and make that'll be a good time. Sounds like it's going to be great weather for it. We have Daddy-Daughter Dance scheduled for that day, that evening also, February 10th, and we have Mother-Son Dance scheduled for Saturday, April 13th, so you can mark your calendars for that. We do have some movement out at the old Kmart Heilig Myers site. As we all know, that's one of the problem areas that has become more of a dilapidated building of the last few years. The Heilig Myers side has sold. It's sold to Dunkin' Donuts, who intends to put a Dunkin' Donut factory in that side of the building. And then we've talked to the owners of the Kmart side, and hopefully we're going to see renovations there and maybe some additional construction in the parking lot relatively soon. So that's a positive thing, as well as the old Town Hall building, or Johnston Hotel right next to us here. You see some movement on that as well. So good things are happening at some of our areas that have been remiss for several years.
Good.
Mr. Manager, can you just, you have it on here, I want to make sure that if anybody watches the recording, that you talk a little bit about the Bella Square issue, because that's near to me at least.
You're talking about the water issue?
Yes, please.
Yes. We've had complaints of low water pressure at Bella Square. We continue to evaluate that. We modeled some of that water pressure out there to determine if a larger water line out on Barber Road feeding Bella Square would help. The model shows that it would not. It's likely that solutions for the higher elevation areas of the county or of the city will require some type of infrastructure remedy to increase pressures there. But we're going to model elevated tanks, we're going to model pressure tanks in that area and see if we get anything that looks like a good solution out there. But we're also not just looking at Bella Square, because it's important that we look at possibility of economic development and residential development between there and Wilson's Mills. There's a lot of good land there. So we want to make sure that we're looking at that entire scope to make sure that we're ready to provide the water that we need to that entire region. So we're looking at all of that right now.
I know they appreciate your efforts. I know they do. When they call me, they appreciate your efforts. So thank you for helping to resolve this issue.
Mr. Manager, the wastewater pipes in Pine Acres and South Smithfield along Rosewood Drive.
Yes.
You think that's where I know I've gotten a lot of complaints along Rosewood Drive of sewer smells. Do you think that might?
I really don't think so. I'll ask Ted if he thinks so, but this is more as a preventive maintenance thing. We don't really have a complaint of sewer problems in either of those areas, but they're on the schedule to make sure that if there's tree roots in there, that we're killing them and taking care of them so they don't get into something that is a bigger problem. That's what we're really doing there.
Okay.
So you will see trucks in that area for a couple of days, and they'll have the manholes off, and they'll be putting pipe down in there to put in chemical and to, eliminate these tree roots that are starting to grow in these pipes.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
There's no further business. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor?
I'm